All right, so we had started this hearing on September 18th, but we ran out of time, so we reset it for today for a couple more hours of testimony. Ms. Morrison had testified and presented a witness and some other testimony, and we adjourned for today's proceedings. I was going to give Ms. Morrison, since she had the time last time to present her case, we were going to give her another half hour today before we jump into Mr. Morrison's side of his presentation. So Ms. Morrison, you've got a half hour of time left to use today. So I don't know if you want to call additional witnesses or provide additional testimony yourself, but this is your opportunity then to provide that additional information.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I would like to start out with my opening statement. In opening, I would like to express that Aria's mental health is a matter that I have taken very seriously from the beginning. Our previous court dates, I think it's clear that Jesse does not take it as seriously as I do. Just like in recent and in past, when talking about the actions that he has done, he says things like, "It's funny you think that I've ever abused you," all the way to comments in the courtroom, even like, "I'm amazed that you're not a fiction book writer." This attitude towards it all concerns me because it shows me that he isn't ready to take accountability for his actions, which inhibits the process of healing Aria's trauma that he is the reason, he's the cause of it. I'm afraid of him not taking court orders seriously, as he wasn't able to follow a simple personal protection order. He broke it to send me a threatening message in order to sway the outcome of this court case today. Jesse will speak badly about my mental health, I'm sure, with his testimonies and his evidence. And while I have struggled since the beginning of me meeting him, I have always taken action to help my mental health. When he met me, I had gone through previously a lot of bullying in high school, as well as being sexually assaulted. And I have always struggled with my mental health, which is why over the years I have to try and handle that in a correct way. When I first met Jesse, I struggled, but I feel like as a 28-year-old man, he preyed on me, a 19-year-old, knowing that I had been bullied throughout high school and sexually abused. I feel like, in my opinion, he saw these weaknesses and he used them to control and manipulate me. I would like to reinstate that it is not my wish to keep Aria away from Jesse for forever, but it is just to make sure that he holds the accountability that his daughter needs to help her heal and to not hold her back and hurt her even more by denying the abuse ever happened to begin with. I would like Jesse to attend regular therapy and anger management classes, and also to be drug tested prior to any sort of supervised visits with Aria. This concludes my opening statement, Your Honor, and if you could please continue to, I submitted a flash drive with those videos that we weren't able to play last time. There's Exhibit 1 through 13 if you are able to look through those now.
All right, so you're asking to enter those as evidence in this case?
Yes, please. I'm entering the Exhibits 1 through 13 from the flash drive. And then after that is done, I would like to, I'm sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
Mr. Morrison, were you provided a copy of these exhibits?
Not, no.
I have evidence that, oh, I'm sorry, continue, Your Honor. I apologize.
Did you provide a copy of this flash drive to Mr. Morrison?
Um,
All right.
I did it on the same day that I submitted it to. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear you.
You faded out there and no one heard you for a while. So it's the second time you've had a little brief freeze up. So that might be an issue moving forward. But did you provide a copy of this thumb drive to Mr. Morrison?
Yes, Your Honor. I dropped it off with the friend of the court, and then I immediately went to Jesse, or to the post office, to send it to Jesse the same day.
Mr. Morrison, you're saying you did not receive that?
I got one flash drive. Well, I got two flash drives last time before the last case, but are you saying you sent an additional drive? I'm confused.
I sent it on Tuesday this last week, yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Morrison, are you able to play it and share your screen so that he can see these videos?
I guess I don't have a way to show the videos from my end. I only have the one. I only have the one device.
Do you know the length of time of your videos that you are trying to submit?
I had 13 videos. Most of the videos were less than a minute. And then I had one video from my mom that was about 6 minutes. And then I had two videos from Pat and Aria speaking that were a few minutes each.
you file a proof of service with the court saying that you sent this to Mr. Morrison?
I did not submit a proof of service. I wasn't aware that I had to. I didn't have to last time, but I do have somewhere the receipt from the post office, and I made it so that he has to sign. It was certified mail. I paid extra for it to be certified mail.
Since he's indicating he doesn't have a copy of it, and you're unable to screen share, let's focus that on actual testimony right now, and then we'll address the issue of the videos at the conclusion. So do you have any additional oral testimony you want to provide or an additional witness you want to call?
Those videos are extremely important, but besides the videos, I was planning on calling both my mother and then Patrick Dunlap as witnesses. Do you recall pulling Mr. Morrison aside when I first introduced him to you years ago?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what the two of you spoke about when you pulled him aside?
I pulled him aside, just like I thought any mother would do, and just gave him a rundown. Hey, you better treat my daughter right. And she has had some issues in the past, mental health issues, because she suffered with depression, anxiety, eating disorder, extreme bullying, and all that sort. And I just wanted him to be aware that it's not like any other person. It's because you were still so vulnerable and I can't think of the word. You were so vulnerable that anything you would suck it in and just go with it. And that it was just a big, I'm sorry. I wanted him to just watch out and take in consideration about your mental health.
Thank you. Can you also recall any behavior that Mr. Morrison exhibited that could be considered unsafe around children?
Yes, there was the very first time we were sitting, it was a birthday, we were sitting outside around the fire pit. That was one of the first times, very early in the relationship, that you guys came over, and I saw that he was sitting there smoking marijuana around the fire pit, and I called him out on it because he was about to go, you guys were about to leave, and he was just really smug, kept on smoking and explained it away how okay it is, and he's okay to drive. And I even said, my daughter's pregnant, you have your daughter, because JC was around, and it was all good. He was right. And as soon as you guys left, I went downstairs. I called the non-emergency police here in Gaylord, and I told them what I just observed, and I was told that they can't do anything about it as long as he's driving safe and not doing anything like running a stop sign or whatever, driving out of lane. There's nothing they can do. That was the first time. Then, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't realize you weren't finished. I apologize.
Yeah, that was just one incident. Then there was another incident where Aria was just a few weeks old. I knocked on you guys were living here, and I knocked on your room because I had to ask something. And as soon as I opened the door, the room was completely filled with white smoke because he was smoking, and the baby was right there on the bed. And I called you guys out for it. I said, you can cut the air with a knife. It's so thick, and the baby's right there. You're smoking. And again, it was explained away. It's not bad, and yada, yada. And that was the reason why I kicked you guys out, because you guys were like around the smoke with the baby. You allowed it. And then the smugness that Jesse always has with explaining away how okay it is and no toxins and yada, yada. There was another one where, of course, last year when you called us, where we found out the first time he was abusive towards you, and we picked you up, and he was drunk on the balcony, and just his smugness again, and all so calm when I could see right through it. What else? There was one more. There was another time where you were here. I believe it was after I picked you guys up when I found out that you were abused last year. You were sitting here and you had a phone call from him, and it was about a fight that you just had in the car, where he was driving erratic, cussing out other people or something. He was cut off, and just from your telling the story, he was high, driving high, and just his response on the phone call led me to believe that this is one of those things where, again, he was high and he was driving with you and Arya in a car. I think that's
Okay,
it.
I do want to ask, just to make sure that we all understand, at the beginning of the relationship, when you brought up your concerns about Jesse's marijuana smoking, this was when marijuana was both recreationally and medically illegal in the state of Michigan, correct?
Can you please repeat it, because the audio cut off?
When you first found out about Jesse Morrison's unsafe behavior with his smoking of marijuana towards the beginning of our relationship, this was when marijuana was illegal both medically and recreationally in Michigan, correct?
It was legal medically, but he didn't have a card. No.
Okay. And then that will conclude. Also, I'm sorry. You mentioned the last fight when you came and you noticed that he was intoxicated when you had to come pick up Arya and myself. That was, can you recall, was that the morning that Jesse was driving Arya and myself around in town?
I don't know if it was that day or the day before. It was very, very recent to the time that we came to pick you up. It was within days. I just don't know if it was that day, because it was crazy that day. So I'm sorry. I don't remember.
I do want it to be known on record that it was the same day as all of that, because when we got home, I was afraid for mine and Arya's safety, and I had to call my parents to come pick me up.
I'm sorry. I remember now, because it was the day that you went to the farmer's market, and it was the same day. Yes, yeah. I remember now. I'm sorry.
That is okay. I do appreciate you coming and giving your testimony, and Your Honor, that concludes my questioning for my mother. I am using Patrick Dunlap's phone since my phone has lesser quality for my camera. Do you mind if I go to the other room and get Patrick for his line of questioning?
I do at this moment, because Mr. Morrison first has a right to ask Ms. Shirley any questions if you would like.
I apologize, Your Honor. I completely forgot. I apologize.
Mr. Morrison, do you have any questions for this witness?
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shirley, for appearing today. You may sign off, and Ms. Morrison, you may get your next witness. Thank you. All right, Ms. Morrison, you may begin with your questions.
Thank you. Can you please explain any concerning behaviors you've witnessed from Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, we've had a few. I haven't met him very many times, but every time I feel like I've seen some concerning things. One time to recall is at Farm Fest. Jesse opted out of spending any kind of quality time with Arya when he had the opportunity to play with Arya. And instead he pulled her aside and he started, your mom is manipulating you. What your mom is doing is wrong. And I feel like he used those opportunities to be combative and try to manipulate her instead of spending quality time with her or playing with her. Another incident at Farm Fest was him blocking the line while me and Arya were volunteering in the kitchen. He was blocking the line so that we couldn't serve people. And he was making rude comments to you. When you asked him to walk away, he threw his fist up at you and said, you guys are going to get it, as he walked away, right in front of Arya, her very clearly able to see it and hear what he said. And then I guess the day that I met him, he had just dropped her off to us in the Pigeon. We were supposed to spend your time alone, not parenting, in the Pigeon camping. And he dropped her off last second because he was going to try to take her to this party. Or
That was the week after.
That was the week
Ma'am,
after.
you cannot instruct the witness what to say and correct him during his testimony. This has to be his testimony, not
I
yours. And you certainly
apologize,
should
Your
not
Honor.
point to any. Okay, so Mr. Dunlop, if you don't know an answer or you're not sure of an answer, that's fine, but you can't take cues from Ms. Morrison as to how to answer.
I apologize, Your Honor. I didn't know. May I go on to my
Well-
next question, Your Honor?
Can ask questions, yes.
With what you've experienced in these last 5 months being here, what have you noticed can trigger Aria's PTSD?
There's a lot of triggers for Aria's PTSD. One of them being any kind of loud noise, like if we're shutting a door and the draft grabs it and it shuts a little bit hard, she can very easily have her PTSD triggered. Other men specifically, like we were at the Otsego County Fair, not Alpenfest, it was the Otsego County Fair, and she was getting really excited about going up and down the slide, and she kept running on the slide at the end of it. And the gentleman that was running it just very politely asked her to stop. And I think him getting close and asking her to stop running, it really triggered her. And I remember her crying then. Any kind of raised voice, any kind of loud noise or bang or anything can really trigger her PTSD.
How often do you see her PTSD getting triggered?
I would say it's at least once every day, every other day. Sometimes there are harder days where she'll get triggered a couple times and we'll have a really rough day and we'll have to work with her a lot and be there for her a lot more. But I would say it happens at least once a day where something triggers her.
When Aria's PTSD is triggered, what kind of behaviors do you witness from her?
So I think that there's a range between how she's triggered and what her response will be. A lot of times she gets very scared and she will find a place.
All right, Ms. Morrison, your audio again froze up for a little bit, so he needs to restart his answer to that question.
I think that there is, can you hear us now, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. I think that there's a wide range between how she reacts on what triggers her, but I think for the most part, it will be she gets triggered and she will run and hide and show a lot of fear. And we have to spend quite a bit of time trying to reassure her that she's safe. Other times she will get angry and sometimes she will get violent. She punched the door jamb a couple times. Just saying mean things in reaction.
When did you notice mine and Aria's PTSD symptoms getting worse?
There was a incident with the neighbor, Jeff. We were at his birthday party for his child. And he wanted everybody to stop so that his kid could sing while they were in the middle of opening presents. And all of the kids were excited and he yelled at Aria about it. And she ran away, very scared. We found her behind one of the vehicles that were over there and she was crying, asking that he apologize for yelling at her and scaring her. And when we did that, he yelled and screamed at both of you. And I think that seeing him, he's a larger man. He's a little bit taller than I am at 6 foot. I think that seeing a larger man yelling and getting so aggressive and violent with the two of you, I know that the PTSD triggers have gotten more sensitive since that happened.
Okay. And the last one I have is a week after you got here, do you remember Jesse trying to convince me to let him take Aria to one of Joseph Bose's house parties?
Yes, I do. We often go camping. We were camping and he had called you several times that morning trying to convince you that it was your day, even though we had I think 5 days planned out there camping while it was his time. And at first he was trying to convince you to let him take Aria to this party. And you said no. You finally said no, just bring her out here to me. And he ended up bringing her out to the Pigeon with us, which was a good thing because we later found out that there were a lot of drugs and even the neighbors shooting guns at them because they were being so loud. It was not an environment for children to be in at all.
Your Honor, that concludes the questions that I have for Patrick Dunlap.
Mr. Morrison, do you have any questions for this witness?
I do. Would you say that Aria's PTSD symptoms match Melissa's PTSD symptoms?
Similarly, sometimes, but I think a lot of it has to do with her recalling you punching holes in the walls and having to hide while you beat the door down. And a lot of that is why we find her. Can I finish answering my question?
Yes or no question, sir. Yep. So, can you not see, yes or no, whether this is a trigger from Aria from her mom? She's taking a lead from her mom here. Do you not? Can you see how it could be a possibility?
No, I do not.
Okay, but you've never been. Are you a parent to any kids? Have you ever been a parent to any kids before?
Yeah, I am.
You're a parent. Where's your child right now currently?
I have joint custody with his mother who lives in Dearborn.
Joint custody. So are you able to see your kid whenever?
Yeah, I can see him and get him whenever I want. I can talk to him whenever I want. We regularly video chat and speak. And every time I'm down there, I have him on all visits, usually a month at a time, 4 times a year.
If your ex just met someone and let you know, like, so were you guys co-sleeping together with my daughter?
No.
Never. So I'd like to bring out last month's testimony when Melissa said that she had been co-sleeping with you guys. So right now, either you're lying or she's lying last month.
No, you said, were you? We were not in the beginning, no.
But you have been co-sleeping within the last 3 or 4 months that you've taken her out of my care, yes?
In the last short period of time, yeah, occasionally. A lot of times I do sleep on the couch.
Okay. Where do you work, Patrick?
I work for a log house building company. I actually just changed jobs. I was working for the landlord here doing a remodel on her business. Since then, I found a better opportunity where after like additional bonuses at the end of the week, I make roughly $30 an hour.
Currently working that job?
What's that?
Are you currently working and pulling in money?
Yes, yeah. I make $30 an hour, and this is my first day off in 8 days.
Okay. How long have you been working there?
There, I just started, but I have been working since the 3rd day that I came to Gaylord. I had a job, and I've had steady gainful employment since then.
When you first came to town, can you explain Melissa and my relationship, that from what you could see, what it was? Was it good? Was it bad? Like, where were we?
When I first came to town, it seemed kind of okay, but it definitely appeared to me after just my 3rd day in town that you would very regularly manipulate her to try to get your way out of situations.
Manipulate her. Okay, that's. You know what's funny? I've gone my whole entire life living here in Gaylord with all the people here in Gaylord have never heard these things.
Mr. Morrison, this isn't your chance to give us dialogue. It's your chance to ask questions, sir.
Apologize. Nothing else I can particularly think of right now, fortunately, but.
All right, thank you. Ms. Morrison, do you have any other witnesses?
No, I do not, but my phone is charged enough now and I'm able to show those videos now. I have just enough charge on my phone if I'm able to show those videos to you.
We're going to start with Mr. Morrison's testimony, and then we'll address the videos after his evidence and his testimony.
I should exit now.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Morrison,
Thank you, Your
do
Honor.
you want to call a witness first, or do you want to testify first?
I would like to call a witness to the stand, please. I'd like
All
to call
right, and who's the first?
I apologize. Andrea Cerveny to the stand. This is my 11-year-old's daughter's mother who works at CPS and can attest to everything I'm saying.
I don't need to worry about what she's going to testify to, sir. I'm just asking who your witness is. Hold on.
Gotcha.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Morrison, you may proceed.
Can you please tell us where you work, please?
I work with the state of Michigan for Child Protective Services.
Have you ever, in the entirety of our relationship and raising our daughter JC, seen me as an unsafe or seen me doing anything unsafe that could warrant any of this that's going on right now?
No, we've had a very positive co-parenting experience. I have no concerns of abuse or neglect for our daughter nor Aria.
Can you explain? Oh, so actually, let's see, 2 years ago, about Melissa and I were living in a camper in your driveway for the summer, which you were generously allowing us to do. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you please explain, can you briefly describe that experience and your perspective?
At first I felt like it was okay. And then Melissa started making things extremely uncomfortable for, I think, everybody. She became, I guess, just upset over pretty much anything and everything. She stated she didn't feel comfortable living there, which is, I mean, understandable. I definitely saw some serious mental health concerns based on her actions and the way she spoke to not only Jesse, but also everyone in the household, including myself.
And do you remember CPS being called?
Yes, CPS was involved once for a complaint regarding Melissa self-harming and writing that she wanted to die with blood on the camper wall.
In her own blood, she was writing on the wall.
Correct.
Okay. This is what do you think this is? It was a safe environment for well, how about this? Do you remember JC having any problems with Melissa at all?
JC's a very loving and respectful child. I do think that JC had a negative relationship with Melissa towards the end, just based on things she was telling me that she was doing with Aria and the way she was acting with her mental health. She said she was scared about Melissa and that she could flip, and basically JC would want to hide in her room because she didn't want to hear Melissa basically screaming at Jesse and vice versa. So I think that towards the end it got a little bit rocky, but she's very easy. My daughter's very easygoing, so she takes everything kind of with a grain of salt sometimes. But I do think there was some concerns on her behalf. And at this point, she's very, very upset about Melissa not letting Jesse see Aria because, I mean, she can't see her sister, and it's very hard on her. She's 11 and she loves her sister so much, and it's been super hard on her all summer.
The entirety of them growing up, have I made sure to have them both be together as much as possible as siblings growing up, even when I was living in a separate city?
Yes, Jesse has always made he's made his children a priority for the entire time that I've known him, or since he's had children. There's never been a question of anything of, I guess, just like any negativity towards his children. He's very supportive, very loving towards both his daughters. And I've seen that firsthand with both children. He's very involved.
Say the common denominator is here.
I believe that the common denominator is an extreme mental health concern with Melissa. I think that she definitely needs treatment, and she needs, well, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that she needs to work on herself and, I guess, be more lenient with Jesse seeing Aria. There definitely needs to be some visitation. I don't have any concerns for Jesse as a parent or a man at all.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to state for the record?
No, I believe that's it.
I believe that is it as well. Thank you.
Ms. Morrison, do you have any questions for this witness?
I'm sorry, did you say Miss Morrison?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I absolutely do. Andrea, have you seen Jesse physically abuse me?
I have not.
Okay, have you seen Jesse verbally abuse me?
Could you be more specific?
Verbal abuse as in degrading me, telling me to kill myself after knowing that that is something that I struggle with, degrading my intelligence constantly.
I do not believe I've witnessed that firsthand at all, ever. I've heard you say it for sure, but I've never actually seen it, so I can't.
So you
Thank God.
have heard me mention to you that there was abuse going on,
Yes, from your mouth, not his.
but
yes, I have
because
heard you
just
say that.
abuse happened behind closed doors, you didn't see it personally.
Correct.
Okay, so I know you guys mentioned the CPS case that I was involved in. Do you remember it being closed as soon as it could be closed due to insufficient evidence in regards to the false accusations that were involved?
I can't state why it was closed. I do not have access to that. So I don't know what happened. I was never informed of anything. I was merely a household member. Therefore, I have no idea what happened with that case.
I would love for the courts to acknowledge the fact that it was closed after the 30-day minimum due to insufficient evidence because of the fact that the accusations were.
All right, man, this is your chance to ask questions, not for you to provide testimony, okay? We've been over
Do you
this several times.
understand? Perfect. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Andrea, do you understand the trauma that comes with PTSD?
I do.
Do you understand the triggers and do you understand the triggers that come with PTSD?
I think PTSD is a very broad term, but yes, I believe that triggers are certainly involved with PTSD. Definitely can be for sure. So they should definitely be addressed for sure.
So can you acknowledge that there are different, what is the word I'm looking for? There are different ways that it can manifest in people.
I don't see how this has anything to do with me or my part in this case, Your Honor.
The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because you were referring to the way that I was acting and talking about my mental health. And this is all in regards to everything that I ever did, and the way that I acted was all in regards to
I would
the
agree
severe
that for
trauma
this
I was going
witness,
through.
this witness, her knowledge of PTSD, since she's not a qualified expert in the area, her opinions on this matter are not actually admissible as far as those questions. So we need to move on to a new area of questioning, Ms. Morrison.
Okay, I do not have any more questions for this witness. Actually,
All right,
wait.
thank
I'm sorry. I think I have one more. I don't think I asked this. Do you remember CPS being on your case about JC telling her teacher that she drank your vodka from a water bottle?
I do.
Okay,
How is that relevant to this case?
that's it, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm just bringing up the fact that, well, no.
All right, no,
that's not
hold
my-
on, Ms. Morrison. I don't need to hear your explanation here, okay? We can all stop with the non-stop adding in, just ask questions and we move forward. Thank you. All right.
That concludes my questioning for this person, Your Honor.
Mr. Reedy, you're free to sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morrison, your next witness.
I'd like to bring Mr. Joe Bose to the stand,
You may
please.
proceed.
Mr. Bose, can you please describe your relationship with you, me, and Melissa? How do you know us, the three of us?
Well, you and I have been acquainted for some years now. I'm not sure exactly the exact amount of time, but I obviously met Melissa through you, as well as Aria and JC.
And did we live with you for a short period?
You did during the time when you were living in Andrea's driveway in the camper. I had offered you a place to stay instead of that for a transitional period while you guys got your own place. You and Melissa had a room. The girls both had their own separate room.
Did I express any concerns with moving in and being afraid of moving in any capacity?
No, I don't believe so at all.
And was it a comfortable living situation? Were we good tenants?
Yeah, for the most part, you were good tenants. I also, did my best to make sure that it was a safe environment for everybody while you were here. And yep, the girls were great. There were obviously some instances that I overheard that I'd be happy to talk about.
Such as what kind of instances had you overheard?
Well, there were multiple occasions where your room was directly below mine, so I did hear a lot of at least not necessarily all the exact words, but I could hear you and Melissa's, some of your arguments. And every time I heard it, it was you in a calm and pleading voice and her getting progressively louder, screaming. I heard things being thrown by her. There was the one instance where you came upstairs crying with scratches all over your face, not knowing what to do because she had attacked you over something. There was another instance where she put some stuff on fire in the camper because she was upset and mad about something. There were multiple occasions where Aria came to me and said that she was afraid of her mother, that mom was scaring her, that mom was being mean, and she would hang out with me until you got home from work because she was afraid of her mother. There were multiple occasions where she was just drunk in her room while you were at work and she was supposed to be watching Aria.
Multiple occasions, you said.
Multiple.
While I'm providing for the family and working, she was doing what?
In her room by herself, not watching Aria.
Okay. That's pretty much all that really needs to be said. Is there anything else you'd like to add to it? I mean, there's
As far as my experience with you guys, all I've ever seen about you with your daughter was loving, caring, and that you were the one that Aria would go to if she wanted comfort.
That about concludes anything else I have. That's all I need.
Ms. Morrison, any questions for this witness?
I do, Your Honor. How frequently, Joe, would you say that you have house parties at your house?
A couple times a year at this point.
Okay. Do you recall making a Facebook post on June 13th this year about a house party you were planning on the weekend of June 23rd called the Party on the Plains of Existence?
I do.
Do you recall saying in that post that it's kid-friendly during the day?
I do. Had a separate kids camping area set up, as well as adult supervisors for the children.
Do you also recall in that post saying that the rules slacken as things get darker with a winky face?
I'm sorry, excuse me? Are you giving me
I'm
a
asking
direct
in
quote?
that same post where you're talking about your party coming up, when you said that it was a kid-friendly during the day, did you also mention that rules are slackening a bit as it gets darker with a winky face?
I don't recall.
If you look back on your Facebook page, there is a post on June 13th that says all of this. Were there any kids at your party on the Party of the Plains of Existence? I'm sorry, Your Honor, my phone is freezing. I cannot hear his testimony.
He's frozen for me also.
Okay, you have just
All right,
been frozen for me, Your Honor.
Mr. Bose, did you hear that question?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
I
can
can hear
now.
you now.
Yes. So you didn't hear my response to the question?
No, sir,
No.
I didn't.
Yes, at that particular event, there were two children, my friend Tiff's two children, who were 11 and 14, and they had their own area in the house with supervision away from all of the adults.
Do you believe a party that has neighbors shooting guns at you because they're upset about your noise would be considered a safe environment for children?
I guess I can't imagine it would be, but there's also no evidence that they were shooting at us or anything like that. Neighbors out here shoot guns all the time. We're in a rural area. All of my neighbors have guns. I hear it all the time.
Your Honor, if you look at my written copy with exhibit number 7 at the end, it says Even though the neighbors got mad and popped off shots at us with a laughing face. And there was other comments speaking about how there was guns being shot
Okay,
because
you have a
they were
question?
upset about the
You
noise
have a
ordinance.
question, ma'am, for Mr. Bose?
Were there any illicit drugs at your party on the Plains house party?
Not that I'm aware of.
Your Honor, if you could once again look at that packet of papers on exhibit number 6, I believe it was. If you
So,
look,
Ma'am, you will have a chance to provide rebuttal testimony, okay? So this is your time to ask questions. Okay?
okay.
Not direct everybody else what to, this is your time to ask questions of this witness. What's your next question?
So I asked if there were any illicit drugs. He said no. Joe Bose, are you aware of the penalty of perjury?
I believe I am.
Okay. Do you know what reactive abuse is?
I am unaware.
Okay. Your Honor, that concludes the questions that I have for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison, your next witness.
All right, well, I'd like to call Drew Nash to the stand, please.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Nash. Got a couple questions for you. Please describe your current role in my life.
My current role in your life, I am your roommate. We co-work together. You started your own business, and I help you every once in a while. I'm essentially the uncle to your kids.
When did you move in?
I moved in at the beginning of January of this year.
So when Melissa moved out.
Yes, to assist you with rent and to get me out of my situation.
And since then, as a father, how would you describe me as a father to both of my girls?
Honestly, you're great. Being as far as from someone who grew up without a great father figure in his life, you're caring, you're nurturing, you're great. You're a great dad.
Do I provide everything my daughters need? Absolutely. Like, do I provide for them?
Yes. Anything they ask for, you generally give them a little spiel about why it's good for them or why it wouldn't be, and you cook food for them, you clean up after them, you help them, take them to school, you do everything.
Do I drink alcohol?
No, sir. You haven't had a drop of alcohol since before I moved in.
Do I use any illicit, illegal drugs?
No, sir.
Do I even smoke cigarettes or nicotine?
You do not. I smoke cigarettes, and that's something that I do outside of the house because we don't smoke in the house. It's not good for kids. It's not good for us.
Can you explain the entryway room, the entryway room we have downstairs?
Yeah, our catch-all. Yeah, it's we use that. It's for taking off coats and shoes and getting ready. To the left is a table. We keep. Honestly, because we both work a lot in paint. There's a lot of paint supplies there off to the side, but it's never anything we can't walk directly straight through to the rest of the house.
So laundry and paint catch-all kind of stuff, right?
Laundry, yeah.
Okay. And the rest of the house, how would you describe it? I mean, is it messy? Is it clean? Do I keep up after things, or do I?
So the house is generally actually very, very clean. Obviously once we have kids over here and kids happen, messes happen, but that's a normal part of having children in the house. Other than that, it stays clean. There aren't knives lying around. It's a clean, safe spot for kids to be. And I know that when we do have kids over here, that's the priority.
Can you explain my mental state since Melissa has left?
Since Melissa has left, you have been tremendously better, honestly. I've worked with you for a whole year prior to me leaving Kaiser Painting and then coming back. So the whole time it was day after day of you're trying to work and your phone keeps blowing up because Melissa keeps I'll just say pestering about inconsequential things that could be handled by herself. Things that don't require you to stop working to have to help her with. There are some things, here and there she might need advice, but that's just a normal part of being in a relationship with somebody. But it was constant. Work wasn't getting done efficiently. You were always stressed out. When you were with Melissa, you were drinking, and that wasn't good for anybody. But obviously, since then, it's been a lot better, and you've been better, and I'm actually happy to be living here with you. So,
well, thank you. I'm happy to have you. Is there anything that you could see why I shouldn't have my other daughter here? Or does this all seem pretty out of place and, dare I say it, a witch hunt by Melissa and her family?
So your guys' relationship actually, from my perspective, it was getting progressively actually better from the time that you guys had split and she had moved out. There was a lot of, she was supposed to pick up her stuff and canceled it. Like that happened probably every other day for a month and a half, just because we kept hearing by the door for her. But
what would you say is a factor that all of a sudden, like everything, so from your experience, everything was going fine. I was getting better. I'm doing better. It still has been doing better. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, why, from your perspective, was Aria taken out of this house? What was the new one thing that happened in everyone's life?
The new thing that happened in everyone's life that was kind of a shock, just with her new acquisition of Patrick Dunlap in her life. We didn't know who he was, and which isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing, but him showing up and then all of a sudden Aria was gone, and we haven't seen her in 4 months, 3 months. Like,
would you say that parental alienation?
It seems a little unfair that it's allowed for one parent to take a child without, that it's not good for the child to not have both of their parents, regardless of the situation. It's and honestly, I feel like any attitude problems Aria might have since you and Melissa separated is just from you guys separating. It's if she has triggers or anger issues like that, it could just be from a simple parents happens. But that's just speculation. But
and that is speculation. That is your opinion. That's awesome. That's what I want to hear. Have you witnessed or heard of Melissa lying to friends, to me, to others, in order to get her way in whatever that may be? Have you been person to that?
I know.
Your Honor, I didn't hear the question. You timed out. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please, so I can understand what's being asked?
All right, Mr. Morrison, please repeat that question.
Thank you.
Get me off track. I forgot what I asked there. Give me a second. Do you remember what I asked, Drew? I can't exactly remember. Would you like to restate?
You're asking about there's never been any situations where he's seen Melissa try and manipulate the situation to get what she wants.
Yes.
As far as recalling specifics, no, I can't actually recall any very specific details on anything. No, I'm sorry. I do know there's just a lot of
So Mr. Nash did not have personal knowledge to that. So Mr. Morrison, can you ask the next question?
Is it true that shortly after you moving in and before you moving in, you and Melissa were sleeping together?
Yes.
That is true. I just found out about that. When I confronted you, what did you say?
I said yes.
You told it.
And yeah, we had been talking, and I'd been sending her pictures of Aria just because she felt like she needed to feel, she felt better with receiving pictures of Aria while she wasn't with her. So, and me just hanging out with the kids all day, I just take pictures and send them to her, and it wasn't really a big deal. I wasn't doing that specifically to, nothing weird, but obviously just sending her pictures of her daughter, like not a big deal.
Okay. When's the last time you contacted Melissa or talked to her?
It's in my Facebook threads, but it was 3 or 4 months ago. I'm not 100% sure when.
And what was that seems to be about the time that Patrick came into town, correct?
Right. I remember the conversation was something about like we kind of had somewhat of a misunderstanding between each other on what we both were thinking or something, and she became upset. Didn't speak to me for a little while, and I reached out and was like, hey, hope you're okay, like this doesn't affect our friendship, we're still friends regardless of whatever, anything happened. And then I didn't hear back from her, and then I was blocked. So
blocked. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to state for the record on this situation that's going on? Do you have anything that you think is pertinent for everyone to hear from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, really just with about Aria, she really was just a normal girl, a normal child. The whole time she was living here with us and, staying here with us, it was obviously with Melissa, sometime with us sometime. She never once displayed any scared triggers for door slamming or anything. She was just a normal little girl playing, having fun, drawing cats with JC. Like, every once in a while, yeah, she would have a nightmare, but kids are kids and they have nightmares. Every once in a while she'd make a mess. Every once in a while she wouldn't listen to you. Like, she's just a normal child. So that's why I personally believe that anything that's happening is honestly, it's got to be because the family split. Because that is a hard thing for any child to go through. So, and then as far as Joe Bose and not being a family fun or safe place, I've known Joe for years as well. Long time. Honestly, probably the same amount of time I've known you, Jesse. He's always been a safe guy. Like, he likes kids. He always has. He's good with kids. And anytime I was over there with you guys, there was always a safe spot for kids to be.
Thank you.
And then other than that, I don't really have much of anything else. Just we miss her.
Yeah, we do. That's about it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Morrison, do you have any questions for this witness?
I do. Drew, do you recall having ashtrays and cigarette butts all over your room when you brought me over to your mom's house earlier this year?
Yeah, at my mom's house. That's not here.
Do you ever, or have you ever smoked inside of your room at your current residence?
No, ma'am.
Do you know why it would have been a possibility that Patrick and my father got a large whiff of cigarettes only when the door was opened at your house?
Well, the neighbors below us smoke, and I had just left for work 15, 20 minutes before you guys showed up. And honestly, I put my cigarette butts in a can by the door. So.
Do you recall ever reassuring me that I'm a great mother that does everything that she can do for her daughter?
I do. There was a time there where you and Jesse were were working really well together and speaking positively back and forth with each other over text messages and even in person. Yeah, you were actually being like a very good mom. You were being protective. You were being nurturing. You were doing things the right way. But yes.
Do you recall me asking you to send me pictures and updates because Jesse all too often refused to do so for me?
I remember that was the specific quote. Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the reason why I stopped speaking to you for a while was because you had lied about something that involved Aria at your house?
Yeah, because yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Do you recall that both times when I came to try and grab my things from Jesse's house that he refused to let me look throughout the house and throughout other boxes to grab my things, telling me that I need to come back later so he can sort them out?
Yes. Yep.
Do you mind please explaining the lie that caused me to be upset with you in regards to Aria?
No, I don't mind. It was something that I know you had wanted to always spend all your time with Aria when you could, regardless of if you had just had her for a week or a day or whatever the case was. And I acted in my own selfishness because I wanted to see Aria as well because I like Aria. She's I feel like I'm Uncle Drew. I buy presents and we do stuff. I chose to stay at home and babysit Aria instead of letting you know that I had because I wanted to see her as well. And it was technically Jesse's watching time and he asked me if I would babysit. And I said, yes, gladly. Like Aria's not a problem at all whatsoever. So yes.
And that will conclude my questions for this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Nash. You may sign off. Mr. Morrison, there's not any more witnesses in the waiting room. So are you prepared to start your testimony, sir?
Yes, I am. Our entire relationship, Melissa and mine, wasn't perfect. And neither one of us is the only guilty party here. We both made our mistakes throughout the years. And after 6 or so years of us trying our best to be civil, to be a synergistic relationship with each other, it just wasn't happening. It was either one of us was taking more than the other. There was it was an unbalanced. There was too much being taken from one side and not enough for the other. It was just an unbalanced relationship. We both wanted it to work, and to tell you the truth, I was trying for Aria to stay together with you to make this happen for Aria, because what kid likes to see their parents grow? I already did it once with JC, although that ended up being awesome and it's working out. That's not where it went, and neither one of us is innocent here. We've done our wrongdoings, definitely. I used to drink a little bit too much. It's been over 1.5 years since I've had a drop of alcohol, and I feel fantastic. My life has been nothing but better for it. I started my own painting service, Ninja Services, and just finished my second Alta painting in Traverse City last weekend. Everything in my life's going up. The only bad thing in my life is the fact that I don't have my daughter. What really blows my mind is that it was November 25th of last year when we split. And between that time, you moved into Amanda's house. She had moved into Amanda's house. And things were getting better. On a week-to-week basis, things were getting better. Although there was the odd occasion of Melissa being too drunk at 3:00 in the afternoon to pick up Aria from the bus stop. I just learned about that one. That kind of blows my mind. So originally I kind of went into all of this with thinking we need split custody. We need to do split custody. What kid doesn't need both of their parents in their life? But after this whole entire witch hunt and now the allegations that I'm hearing, and unfortunately Amanda wasn't here because she was living with Amanda and she's got some stories, I'll tell you what. But at about June 16th is when things started getting weird of this year. We had been co-parenting great and things were getting better and better. It was even to the point where we were talking, giving each other hugs, and I'm so happy that you're doing better in your life. And I found someone. Oh, you found someone too. Oh, his name's Patrick. He's coming up in a week. And I would love for us all to go to dinner, and I would love for us all to get together. And oh my God, this is what I wanted. This is beautiful. This is nothing but beautiful. Like, this is what every parent wants. Everyone kids want. If your parents split, you want them to be civil at least. Like, I wanted mine my whole entire growing up. I tell you that. And they weren't, and they're still not. Like, get over it. But we have the chance to make something new happen here. I don't know what happened between this time this Patrick guy got here. And he may be awesome. He may be doing the good things for Aria. But guess what? You have alienated me, not let me privy to anything in Aria's life. You haven't sent her to school. There's no schooling going on right now. I've called South Maple. I've called North Ohio. And whether you think you're capable to homeschool or not, I really don't think, with all of this and all the history we have here, I think that if a split custody arrangement was to be made, then Melissa needs to show the fact that she is mentally stable and able to actually homeschool and do all of this. I have more witnesses I can for another testimony. If it keeps going, I got some more that I can bring, but I don't really want to get really dirty and really start to like make you look really bad, because it's not what it's about. It's about showing you that we are parents capable of being here for our daughter. So actually, there's best interest of the child factors that the state of Michigan looks into. There's 12 factors, and currently, I'd like to go through them real quick. First one, factor A, the love, affection, and other emotional ties existing between the parties involved and the child. Who's the child bonded with? Both of us. Who does the child go to with a problem? Both of us. Meaning, sometimes it's a problem, something mom can't. Like, wouldn't want mom to blow up. I don't like that as a parent. How does each parent relate with the child? I'd say, well, very well. How much time does each parent spend with each child each day? Well, it's mainly you, because you took her out of my life. How often does the parent used to make the child's meals? Whoever's around. I have no problem making meals, neither do you. And how often does each parent bathe the child, put the child to bed, and read the child stories? Well, when we're together, it was mostly you, because I was the one working all day. But since we split, whoever Aria was with was the one doing all of that. So that splits both way again. Are the parents able to separate the child's needs from their own? I am. How affectionate is the child with each parent? Very affectionate. Very, very affectionate. I imagine just equally. That's the first factor. There's a lot of things within that first thing right there. Factor B, the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the child love, affection, and guidance, and to continue educating and raising the child in the child's religion or creed, if any. Who stays home from work if the child is sick? I have the ability to do that. I don't know if you're working or not, can or not. I can do that now. I own my own business, and I can actually set my own schedule to be whatever it needs to be. Who usually handles school and homework issues? Well, You currently, apparently, but I don't know if she's going to school. If she was going to school here, then it would be me, whoever she's with, who usually
So
handles
Mr.
sports.
Morrison, Mr. Morrison, 1 second. So the record's not going to be clear when you keep saying you. So you need to refer to Miss Morrison as either Melissa or Miss Morrison. So the record is clear. It's not, you're not having a conversation with her right now. You're providing testimony. So you need to
Yeah.
refer to her that way instead of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. How does each parent discipline the child? I explain and the circumstances and the consequences and move forward from that and keep a calm disposition. I'm not sure how Melissa does that. How does each parent talk to the child? I talk to Aria like she's a human being that has a brain in her head that can learn anything that she's told. How often does each parent involve the child with grandparents, uncles, aunts, and others? Well, since you alienated her from me in my life, since Melissa Morrison, there we go, alienated my child from me in my life, that's been none. I haven't been able to. And I have a giant family here in Gaylord and Michigan who misses and loves Aria very, very much. Not to mention her sister, 11 years old, who they grew up together, and Melissa decided to take her out of her life. That's a big thing. That happened to me when I was younger. My sister was taken away from me, and it's still something I struggle with. Who usually handles sports and other activities? Well, I'd say it's me since I'm the sporty one. But at the same time, camping, Melissa, they love to go camping. Like, we all do that. How does each parent discipline the child? Explains what they did wrong. I do. I explain what they did wrong and what needs to be done correctly. I imagine Melissa does the same thing. How does each parent talk to the child? Like this. The more I go down the list, the more I see that, like, we both are parents and we both are parenting, and this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I'm a good father, have been for 11 years. I have a kid to show for it, and now all of a sudden I'm evil. I don't show a lot of emotions often. But JC said something to me the other day, and that's my oldest. You know, Dad, the only time I've ever seen you cry is when Melissa makes you cry. And that just made me cry some more. Because it's enough that she's coming to me crying because she misses her sister and she doesn't know why you took her out of this house. Why Melissa took her out of this house. There's no good reason that you have for taking her out of a stable environment, out of a home that she's been in for over a year, where I've been a painter the whole entire time. I've had a vehicle the whole entire time. I have the same friends the whole entire time that can attest to the fact that I am a good parent. I have my daughter's mom, Andrea. We have a beautiful relationship between each other, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I would love for it to be like that with me and Melissa. It was getting to that point. Love to know what happened. I really genuinely would, but I think I know what happened. Patrick happened. This guy has been a nomad for 10 years, living on the road, and he'll admit that to you. I should have asked him about it. I totally forgot. But he has found a rock. He has found salvation, someone that's willing to take him in. And in doing so, being taken in, he has taken over my role and somehow pushed me out. Now, I'm not going to let that happen. I live in Gaylord, have lived in Gaylord, have been raised by Gaylord. As much as you want to try to slander me and throw me under the rug, I have nothing but a trail of good people I leave behind me. I don't do bad to anyone. You are the common denominator, Melissa. That's it. I don't wish you harm. I wish you healing. I wish you health.
Mr. Morrison, I need to speak to the court, not to Miss Morrison. Thank you.
I wish for Melissa and my relationship to be civil and loving. And hey, your birthday's coming up and I got you something. Like I don't think Melissa understands that this could all be beautiful and amazing. But instead, it has turned into a witch hunt over a handful of indiscretion, of a handful of what? Altercations we had over the 6 years of us being married. Who hasn't in 6 years? Have I gotten better for it? Yep. Definitely. Have you? I hope so. And I hope that any harm that I have caused, dang, I keep doing that too. It's hard because I haven't been able to talk to Melissa for a real long time. And then she put a PPO on me, and all I wanted to do was talk to her. At Farm Fest, all I wanted to do was spend time with my daughter. But every time I approached them, they would walk away. So in one hand, you have Melissa and Patrick gave up a perfectly good opportunity to hang out with his daughter at Farm Fest. Well, I volunteered that last whole entire weekend to be there for that weekend. You were volunteering. You guys, Patrick and Melissa, were volunteering in the Farm Fest stand. I wasn't holding up a line to do anything. I was trying to talk to my daughter. The same chance that Melissa and Patrick said I was passing up was literally me trying to talk to my daughter. How is that the same? It's not. You can say one hand, but then when it fits like to benefit you on the other hand, you switch it up. It doesn't work like that. You can't just keep lying. It doesn't work like that. That's lying. It doesn't work like that. I am blown away by the fact that she's able to take my daughter from legally and keep her for 4 months, not being in a mentally good spot. I have recently come across 5 different people sending me a post of Melissa and Patrick posting on Gaylord helping Gaylord, Petoskey helping Petoskey, all over Harbor Springs, all over. Hey, we're looking for a place to live. We don't have anywhere to live. We don't have anywhere to work. We need somewhere, and we have a baby on the way. So Melissa is currently pregnant as well. So if she can't provide for this one daughter and she's doing nothing but trying to demonize me in order to get this kid, what are you going to do when you don't have, I'm sorry, I keep doing the you thing. What's going to happen when there's another kid born and you can't support the one that you have right now? That she can't support the one she has right now. It's a small, Northern Michigan is a small community, and you can only try to trash someone so long before the community snaps back on you. Doing anything. These are my friends and my family and the trail of good people that I've left behind because I don't do people bad. I don't lie to people. I don't trash their name. I'm a good person. So when someone comes along and is a snake, we all see it. We all see it. I would like to move for full custody, please. And until she can prove she is fit to parent, until she is in a mentally good place, I'd like her to do, Melissa to submit to drug tests as well. I'd like to know that she is sober as well. That's great. The only discord in life currently is the fact that I don't have my daughter. And I'm taking all the proper channels to get my daughter back. Put a PPO on me? Okay, cool. I don't go near you. I didn't want to go near you. I didn't want to go near Melissa anyways. And then now Melissa Morrison is also saying that I violated my PPO. A friend of mine texting your mom texting Melissa's mom that I had no clue about until after that hearing. Like, I didn't even know this person texted your mom. That's not even violating the PPO. I don't want anything to do with you other than my daughter. I want my daughter back. That's the only bad thing in my life. I'm dealing with my daughter breaking down because she doesn't have her sister. I'm dealing with breaking down myself because I don't have my daughter, the one that I've been working my butt off for 6 years to provide for. I don't understand. And another thing, the fact that this Patrick guy who you have known for what, 4 months, 5 months, co-sleeping with our daughter, that's a problem. I don't like that. That's a problem. I don't know this guy. You don't know this guy. Even you claim to know him.
Morrison.
All
right, you gotta get your head squared straight here, sir, and decide who you're speaking to. We've been through it several times.
Yeah.
You're testifying in court. You're not testifying to Ms. Morrison. Okay, thank you.
Speak to everyone because I'm fed up because I don't know what to do, and I'm doing all the proper channels. So I don't really know what else to say other than like I'm not good at this court stuff, and I really do appreciate you for guiding me a little bit. I'm at a loss, really. I don't really know. My life's doing good other than I don't have my daughter. Every single part of my life, I'm kicking butt, dude. Like I want my daughter back. My heart's breaking every day. I don't really have any.
Thank you. Ms. Morrison, do you have any questions for Mr. Morrison?
Yes, Your Honor. And then please bear with me. I do have these not necessarily completely in order, but they all are really relevant. Now, Jesse Morrison, Mr. Morrison, let's see, do you recall telling me early this summer that you think it's funny that you ever abused me?
I said, I do recall saying, I think it's funny that you think that I abused you. Yes, I do recall.
Okay, thank you. Do you also recall our daughter having to hide from you both in the bathtub and underneath our bed on July 30th, 2022, because she was so afraid of you?
I don't recall that, no.
Okay. I guess that leads into the video that will come next. So I need to put a star on that. Do you recall my concerned phone call to you the morning of May 22nd, 2023?
You're going to have to be more specific.
The morning that I called you when I was out of town and asked about Aria's health because I had a very bad gut feeling that Aria could be sick and I haven't heard from anything from you. On that day, do you recall me calling you concerned for Aria's health?
I do remember that, yes.
Do you recall us speaking about, or do you mind telling the judge, please, what the concern was in regards to Aria and her health, please?
The concern was that she was going to die. You called me that morning and said you were afraid for her life and you were afraid that she was going to die, and your gut is never wrong, and you were in tears and you were up in arms, which is, I mean, that's...
Do you recall me asking you several times to please take her to the doctor because I was concerned over the pink eye that we had mentioned she possibly had?
I remember you being concerned that it was something that wasn't validated yet. Yes.
I'm sorry, you're going out. I couldn't hear your response. Can you please say that again?
I remember you being concerned with something that hadn't been validated yet. The fact that you thought something was happening, yet you were in Grand Rapids, you say? So basing it on nothing other than a gut feeling. I do remember that, yes.
Do you recall explaining to me that Aria is showing signs of pink eye, but you don't think that it's pink eye because nobody else in the house is showing signs of pink eye?
Correct. I've been a parent for 11 years.
Okay. Now, do you recall me still being concerned in case it was possibly pink eye, because pink eye, if left untreated, could possibly lead to things like scarring of the eye or loss of vision?
You recall that, and getting her eye drops for pink eye on the first day she was showing any issues in her eye.
I was getting to that. Do you recall trying to calm me down, saying that it's not a big deal that you got whatever over-the-counter drops from the store?
Yep.
Okay. Now, do you recall me telling you that I rushed back that same day of that phone call and you refusing to take Aria to the doctor? And then do you remember me coming back the same day that you refused to take her to the doctor?
I do remember that, yeah. Unwarranted.
Do you remember me contacting you the next day telling you that I took her to the doctor early in the morning?
Which I had planned on doing already. It was the third day. You don't take it on the first day. I have work and I have other things to do. I was busy and I was trying to live my life and raise my other daughter and do all these other things. Sorry. You can't, it's you overstepping your bounds when I am being the parent. I'm the parent. I know what I'm doing. I have other parents around me too to testify, to be here, to be like, no, it doesn't look like pink eye, actually. No. So when it actually turned out to be pink eye and you were right, this is why you're pushing this subject, because you were right on something. Oh my God. And it's something you can be like, oh, well, he did this one thing. Like, come on, dude, we see through it. I do. I'm sick of it. I'm sure the judge is getting pretty sick of it too, I hope.
Mr. Morrison, keep your commentary to yourself and just answer the questions.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure because I haven't been marking my questions down. So you remember me calling with concern about the pink eye, correct?
Yep.
Do you recall me begging you to take Aria to the doctor and period?
I can even take her to the doctor. I vaguely remember that.
Do you recall me asking you several times if you would take her to the doctor if I made the appointment because I was concerned for Aria's health?
I remember you saying this, yes.
Do you remember refusing to let me make an appointment so that you could take Aria that day to get seen by the doctor? Yes or no? Do you also recall, so you refused to take her. So I took her, she got her medicine. Do you remember me telling you that as soon as she received her medicine, she had instant relief?
I do remember this, yes.
Do you recall me telling you that she was diagnosed with a heavy pink eye in one eye that was spreading to her other eye?
I do recall hearing this, yes.
Okay. Do you remember her being prescribed ofulthamalic tobramycin for her pink eye?
No, I don't remember that at all. You were mad at me
Okay, well,
saying
that was what she was prescribed. Do you recall expressing to me that you only ever drank and had an alcohol problem because of me?
yes.
Do you recall calling me multiple times on the morning of June 18th this year, trying to convince me that it was my day to pick up Aria for the week while I was out camping with Patrick Dunlap?
I don't recall this, no. Was this the Joe's party thing?
This was the morning you had to bring Aria out to the pigeon. This was 2 days after she was given back to you for the week.
I don't recall. And if I had to figure out to you, then it was because I had to work. But okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that. Do you mind repeating that, please, Mr. Morrison?
I vaguely remember that. I vaguely recall that, yes, but I can't, for the life of me, remember exactly why I needed to bring her back to you guys. I'm assuming it was work, because that's what I do, work all the time.
I don't know if it's pertinent to remind you the reason why you told me it was my day with her, even though I wasn't supposed to have her until the 23rd. Do you recall me trading back Aria with you on June 16th? The day at the hotel?
Yes, I do actually. I remember us hugging each other and embracing each other and being thankful.
Which would have meant that I was supposed to get Aria back on June 23rd and not June 18th. Did you file taxes this year and claim Aria knowing that I had her a majority of the time this year?
Taxes haven't been filed for this year yet. It's not past January of next year. And the taxes that were filed this last year, I filed myself.
Have you filed taxes for the year of 2023?
2023? No, you can't, because that happens next year.
I'm sorry, 2022's, I apologize. I was getting my years mixed up. Did you file 2022's taxes claiming Aria as your dependent by yourself?
I filed by myself, yes, claiming Aria as my dependent because you failed to provide your tax information after 6 months of me asking you to get it to me. Yes.
Do you recall telling me that you would be splitting whatever money that you got from the state and from federal and from the state from Aria,
Yep.
since we were both struggling at the beginning?
I do.
Did you in fact give me any of the money that you received from the state?
I have yet to receive any of the money. Thank you.
Okay. Did you remember telling me that you would be paying me back the $1,400 that I paid the day I left you on November 22nd? I know you got your dates mixed up, but we split on November 22nd.
I do remember us talking about the fact that I'm paying your cell phone bill to the tune of $128 every single month, and that was being taken out until June 22nd is when it got paid off, when I paid off your cell phone bill. Yep.
Do you remember still owing me about $400 even though my phone bill was done?
No, I
because
don't.
if you do the math from the time that I left you until then, you still owed me roughly about $400, give or take.
No, I don't recall.
Do you know the definition of delayed onset in regards to PTSD?
I don't see the relevance of this.
All right.
Your Honor, may I possibly explain the what the definition of. I got it from my therapist recently, and I feel like it is definitely
Nope,
relevant
not
right now.
at this moment. So you asked him a question if he knew the definition of delayed onset. He asked what the relevance of his knowledge of that definition is, if that is relevant to what we're doing. How is his definition of that term, how is that relevant for today?
I guess it would be more so his understanding, I guess, more so than the definition of it. I
He
feel
can be
like
asked
if
if he
there
has
was an,
an understanding of the term, or he can be asked if he understands the term. If he doesn't, then we move on. If he does, then he can explain what his understanding is.
do you have an understanding of what delayed onset in regards to PTSD is?
I imagine it happens with a delay after the event, but I am not a therapist, so I don't exactly know what it refers to or entails.
Okay. Do you remember introducing co-sleeping with me and JC just after a few days of you and I knowing each other?
I don't actually know.
Do you remember me moving in with you within about a week of us meeting because I had issues in my home life at home?
I do, yeah.
Do you remember the size of the home that you lived in when I came to live with you?
Yes, I do. I fail to see why any of this is relevant.
All right, so you'd already answered the question, so I'm not going to take a relevance objection for that one. Ms. Morrison, your next question, please. All right, Ms. Morrison, you got muted somehow.
I apologize. My video timed out and it just came back in. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Jesse Morrison, how often do you stay home with Aria while she's sick?
Currently, not at all, because you have alienated me from her. But had she been sick in my house, I would stay home with her every time, unless I absolutely had to work. And then I would have a friend of mine, Hannah Peters, of 20 years, who I went to high school with, watch her, who has 2 kids of her own. And a leg.
On the morning of May 22nd, when Aria was sick and you were working, who was she staying at home with?
When was it? I'm sorry, what date?
This is May 22nd, the day that I called in regards to my concerns with Aria's health in regards to her pink eye. I'm sorry, you glitched out and I wasn't able to hear your response. I could only see your actions.
It was with Hannah.
With Hannah. So when Aria was sick with pink eye, you chose to go to work instead of staying at home to care for your sick daughter.
She didn't need me to be there at home while she had pink eye. She just wasn't allowed to be in school.
What exactly makes you think that I cannot provide for my family?
Because you failed to do it for the 6 years we were together. Any ask that I had of you to do so was met with my mental health, or I'm just not doing good mentally, or you know that I can't and I have this and I can't and excuse.
So you can acknowledge that a majority of our relationship, I was struggling with PTSD.
From before me, yes.
So you don't recall me on many occasions speaking to you about how I have PTSD in regards to the way that you treat me.
Oh, I remember you saying it, but I don't believe you because I've heard you lie many times. So you got to a point where you can only cry wolf so many times, you know.
Do you recall me going to several therapists over the years because I had concerns for my mental health?
I remember you attempting to go to therapists.
Yes or no, please.
Therapist said yes. I do remember that.
Okay. Do you also remember me? Do you also remember me trying over the years several times to find different coping mechanisms to help cope with my PTSD that I was struggling with?
I was trying to help as well. You need something.
I'm sorry, was that a yes? Jesse, you cut out there for a moment, or was that a no?
100% yes.
Okay. Let's see. Do you remember at Farm Fest, while we were playing close to the park, you walking up and instead of playing with Aria, you got down to her level and started trying to manipulate her, talking bad about me?
No, I don't remember that at all.
So I just want to make sure you
I
don't remember.
Farm Fest and trying to talk to my daughter and give her love, and you guys being weird about it and not letting me around her. I wasn't trying to talk crap about you. When you came in to remove her from where I was, I said, what mom's doing isn't right, because it's not. What you're doing here isn't right. And then I said, good luck, you guys. I'll see you in court, because that's where we are right now, right? That wasn't a threat. That's what's happening. That's the right path to take. I'm not doing anything.
I just want to make sure that I'm getting this correctly, because this isn't how I recall things going on. Just to make sure that I recall it correctly. So you walked up to me and Aria at the park.
Ma'am, now you are testifying. He has stated his memory of what happened. You can ask him questions, but it's not your turn to testify. So next question.
So I got that. Do you remember telling me when we lived in Grand Rapids how stressed you were with custody with JC and how you just wanted to write her off and be done with her?
I remember venting and expressing such concerns. Yes, having it be such a weight on my life and being able to vent to my wife. Yes, I do remember like venting and having things that were pretty harsh to say. Nothing that ever should have been, I assume, taken to court in the future, but here we are. And obviously I have my daughter JC, everything worked out really, really well. We're co-parenting and civil and amazing, where it should be between any parents that split. So.
Do you recall arguing with me and trying to convince me to allow you to take Aria to that party at the Plains of Existence at Joe's house?
I remember you telling me that I'm not taking her there. It wasn't a me argument. You all of a sudden you're like, no, you're not taking her there. As if my being a parent and knowing what's best for my kids is nothing now, because you've been a parent for so long and you know everything, right? No. Mm-mm. I remember you having an issue with what I was doing and making me take her to you in the pigeon. That's what I remember, because all I wanted to do was bring her to that party. We had a ninja rope training course set up for the kids. We had a slip and slide. We had a pool. We had speakers. We had all kinds of cool stuff set up for them. And so for you to be like, nope, she's not going over there. It's fine and she's safe over there. It's going to be okay. No, I'm not letting you know. You can just take her, bring her out to us in a pigeon then. And now it's turning into this. Like, no. Keep going.
I just want to make sure I ask another question, because I believe two separate dates are getting mixed up. You just to make sure. Okay. Do you remember bringing Aria out to the pigeon to me on June 18th?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the party at the Plains of Existence at Joe's house was the following weekend? The weekend of June 23rd, I believe it was. Yep. Okay, so the only reason why I asked was because you were referencing Aria being brought to the pigeon at that time. Let's see. I believe this, wait. This concludes my questions for Jesse. If we are able to move on to my the rest of my testimony.
Mr. Morrison, I got a couple questions. So can you explain to me, the two of you separated in November of last year or January of this year?
November. About the 25th is about you moved out, like just before Thanksgiving. We didn't have that together.
All right. And then once you separated, how are you guys sharing custody of your daughter?
Week on, week off, according to schedules and work schedules, and just working around each other and making it so that we could co-parent.
All right. So it was week on, week off until July of this year. Is that right?
Until June 6th, when Patrick came into town.
Okay. So prior to that, it was always week on, week off.
Yes. And then my last day with Aria was June 23rd. And it was just, I didn't know it was even going to be my last day with her. I didn't even know that this was even a thing happening.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, sir. Did you have any additional testimony you wanted to provide after the questions that were asked of you?
I want my daughter back, and I don't know what to do about it. I have someone alienating me, and if it isn't already obviously blatantly obvious, like just the town is coming to my aid, and I haven't even asked them for help. That's what happens when you're a good person, and you are a good person. I am a good person. I leave behind a trail of good things behind me. So whenever they catch up to me, it's good things. When I come across someone that I haven't seen in forever, oh my God, Jesse, oh my God, hey, remember this one thing? And like, it's always that. Ask anyone that knows me besides you. You're the common denominator. Ask.
Sir, Mr. Morrison. Mr. Morrison, stop with the you.
I know, right? It's hard. It's hard. Melissa with Melissa.
Mr. Morrison, when do you have your other child? What's your parenting agreement with that child?
I currently have right now. Just dropped her off at school this morning.
What's the agreement? Is it week on, week off?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And what day do you guys exchange on?
Exchange on Sunday.
All right. So starting this upcoming Sunday, that child will go back to the mother. Is that correct?
And it's a loose kind of schedule because we don't have the courts in it anymore, and like we work around each other's schedule. It's very civil. It's very understanding. It's loosely week off, but like if either of us has something that comes up, we work around each other, and we're awesome.
Do you both live in Gaylord?
Yes, we do.
And is it if you're awarded custody in this matter, is it your preference to have your child in this case as the same dates that you had the child in the other case?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right. Thank
you.
All right, sir. Did you have any other witnesses? I don't see anyone else in our waiting room.
There's no one else in the. Okay. Yeah, I had one more person, but I don't know. That'll happen.
All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Morrison, you have the right to provide some rebuttal testimony. And we need to address the videos. I know some of your videos it appeared to be somebody interviewing or speaking with the child. Those are not going to be admissible. Those are hearsay. They're also not a forensic interview. So videos of your child speaking are not admissible evidence. We can address other videos if you wish to try and admit some other video testimony.
Your Honor, would you prefer I go over the evidence that I had submitted this time first, or would you prefer that I do the rebuttal that I had first?
No, we've gone through plenty when you testified before. We went through all those exhibits. So now it's if you want to get some of these videos that wouldn't play before, we're going to discuss each one of those videos. So what are other videos you wish to admit into evidence?
Let's see. I don't know, would showing it off of my phone like this, Your Honor, be enough for you?
Potentially. But let's talk about what
I haven't
video you
press
want to
played
admit.
yet in case. Okay.
What video are you trying? What does this video
So
show
I
that you're
have
trying
a video that is.
What?
The video is my mom's video from, I believe it was July 30th of last year. It was directly after the last drunken, drug-fueled abuse that both my daughter and I were a part of, where my daughter had to hide behind doors and under beds because she was so afraid. And this is the video that my mom got when she came to pick us up. And it speaks about him kind of owning up to some of the abuse. And I thought it was very pertinent because it explains a little bit of what happened.
How long is this video, ma'am?
This video is 4 minutes and 36 seconds, Your Honor. Or wait, yeah, 4 minutes and 36 seconds.
And
in this
saying it's
video, he
relevant,
admits
but-
to harming me. I'm sorry, you glitched out a moment. Can you please repeat that, Your Honor?
You're saying in this video he admits to harming you?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Well, it's 4 minutes and some odd seconds long. So I want to make sure we're not just putting in things that are not relevant or things that are not admissible. So that's where some of the difficulty arises, because I don't think Mr. Morrison has seen these videos yet. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, sir.
So are you able, ma'am, to take a moment and find the specific section where you're saying he admits to something? And then we can simply review that portion of. So you can mute yourself for a second if you want and go through that video.
If you don't mind, please, I'll do that. I'll do that right now, please, Your Honor.
Few moments later.
Oops, I'm so sorry. I think that I did my best to look through everything as fast as I could, Your Honor, and find the spots that are most pertinent in the video. I hope I got everything. Am I able to play? I have a few spots of like about 10. Mind if I play those for you?
All right, you can play the snippet, then we'll decide if that's officially admitted as evidence or not. Go ahead.
Okay, I hope it'll be able to hear. This is the first one.
Yes, because you.
So that first little bit, I don't know if you can quite hear it. He's speaking about how he broke a bunch of glass with the oven and with my my planters the day prior. He was talking about how he was cleaning up the mess so I don't have to come home and clean it up.
It's very hard for us to hear. Mr. Morrison, do you dispute that that incident occurred or not?
What is she claiming that happened? I did. There was some glass things that broken, and I remember cleaning up some glass before she got home, so she wouldn't have to do it. I don't exactly remember this. This is back when I was drinking over a year ago, so I don't really remember, honestly.
All right. So, Ms. Morrison, you're saying that he broke a glass. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I have a separate video that shows he threw a coffee mug at our brand new oven and the glass shattered everywhere, along with several of my glass planter pot or my ceramic planter pots. I came home to my 5 cats on top of the glass eating it.
All right. And we did last time we were here, you did go through that also. So I think some of these videos, last time we'd gone through, the videos weren't playing, but we went through the pictures and what you had provided before. And I do recall, and I'm looking at it now, there was the picture of a broken glass and broken glass. So that has been discussed. I think these videos just are additional evidence on top of what we already discussed at the last hearing. So I don't think we need to have that entered as, because that would be cumulative evidence for what we need here today. So is there anything else from that video, man, that you think you need to play?
Let me see. I'm fast forwarding now, Your Honor, to 100%. Okay, so I have it like just a few seconds before it starts. I have it's about, what is it, 10, maybe 15 seconds of this right here that I will play for you is about me speaking about how afraid Aria was over the instances that occurred with him, like breaking the door of the oven, breaking the door of the bathroom, and etc. So if you'd like, I can play this of me and my mom speaking about how afraid my daughter was.
And when did those incidents happen?
All of these incidences are from that July 30th incident.
Okay.
Of 2022, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. You can play it and we'll see if we can hear it.
Okay. Let me see. She said she doesn't want to see it. 100%. She's afraid of you. I actually heard it. Sarah, she's terrified of you. She heard you were home and she ran. You're lucky I'm not. And then that was it, was how afraid she was and how she was telling my friend Tara about how afraid she was and how as soon as Jesse got home, Aria ran for her safety and I couldn't find her because she was hiding under a bed and refused to come out because she was afraid. And that's right there in the video. I guess it said. I went in my bed. I had to pitch it out. Like in a fucking movie. And then that was it for that one spot, was talking about how Arya had to run and hide and how she was afraid and I couldn't even get her to come out. I had to constantly coax my daughter out from underneath the bed.
Okay. All right. Is any additional testimony, rebuttal testimony that you want to provide, man?
Would you like me to skip the walkthrough of the video evidence of me showing the damage done to our house with him breaking down the doors when me and Ari were hiding inside?
Yes, you can provide testimony. You've already provided testimony regarding those incidents, so I don't think we need additional testimony on those unless you felt we missed something when you last testified.
I did have exact dates, I believe, on I'm not sure if in the pictures last time we were able to see the video of my giant knot on my head from when he busted the door and hit me. I don't know if that's pertinent to play now or if just the screenshot of the cap.
Yes, yeah, those pictures
for you.
Those pictures were shown last time of the bruise and the bump on your head. Yes.
Okay.
We have
and then, okay. Well, then I'll just go.
So you
In regard
cannot hear.
to,
So I think,
like,
I think your videos are all cumulative of what we did last time. And looking at what you provided and what you provided last time, it is all, you're able to provide the still shots in the last evidence. So I think we cover what you're trying to show through your videos, other than the hearsay that is not admissible. So do you have any other rebuttal testimony?
I just wanted that the evidence was in. So I wanted to speak a little bit more about the real reason why I felt like I needed to hold Arya back a little bit from back to Jesse's for a while, and it was mainly within about a week of Patrick coming to visit us. We all went to my good friend's birthday party for her child, and at this birthday party, my friend's spouse Jeff Barragray had yelled directly at Arya in front of the entire group, as well as yelling at her that he's not going to apologize. And he was yelling at me, saying things like, if you don't like what I'm doing here, you guys can get the F out of here. And this greatly shook Arya to her core.
Did provide testimony regarding all that last time also. So
okay, I apologize. So I didn't get to talk about the definition of delayed onset last time, new information that I just recently got from my therapist. And delayed onset is the recognition that some symptoms of PTSD do not immediately appear. Symptom reoccurrence and intensification may occur in response to reminders of the original trauma. And some individuals remain symptomatic for longer than 12 months and some experiencing it for over 50 years. I definitely saw an uptick all of a sudden in Arya's trauma, and I became extremely, I had timed out. I'm not sure if you
Ms. Morrison, no, we haven't heard you for a little bit there, and it sounds like you're not actually providing testimony.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Can you please say that one more time? I can't quite hear you.
Well, we missed a chunk of what you were saying, but you weren't really providing testimony. You were just providing more of an argument than anything. So I think this would be your turn to provide a rebuttal to what Mr. Morrison testified. You were not actually providing any rebuttal. So we're going to close the evidence and just get into closing statements. But I do have a question for you. What grade is your daughter in?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Your Honor.
Grade is your daughter in right now?
She's in first grade right now, and I have several different homeschool programs that I have been doing with her. And I have also another one that I was planning on purchasing here on Friday for her, so that we have both a paid for program as well as several different, what are they called? Several different educational plans for her.
Did she attend kindergarten by homeschool, or did she go to the public school?
She did go to a public school.
Did you and Mr. Morrison reach an agreement as to what was going to happen for school in first grade then?
No, Your Honor. I feared for our thinking that he could possibly pick her up and take her from school. And so I decided to pull her out and continue schooling at home like Jesse and I had originally planned before Aria went to school last year.
All right, so we're probably going to be about to open up a whole new issue then, because as parents, you need to make decisions together on education as well as medical decisions. So if you are not both in agreement for homeschooling, then we're going to have a separate hearing on an argument as to where the child should be in school. Mr. Morrison, is it your agreement that the child participate in homeschool?
No, not at all.
Okay. And ma'am, with him not agreeing, what is your intent? Is your intent to continue the homeschooling or to enroll in public school?
I would very much so like to continue homeschooling. After speaking with my women's resource lady and speaking in heavily about it, I definitely would like to, I guess, continue on to the court date so that we can speak about this, because it's something I very heavily believe in has been better for her. I've noticed a lot of improvement alone in the past 2 months since keeping her back from school. She has improved heavily on both reading, her she was making
Ms. Morrison, you're
very
breaking up.
small.
So hold on. We're just going to have to deal with this issue on another day because it's getting late in the day as far as your timeframes. This is a brand new issue, the schooling issue, which wasn't really argued until I just realized now that there's apparently not an agreement. So this is now the time, Ms. Morrison, to provide any closing argument that you would like to make regarding this initial determination. If we
I'm
can
sorry, do you mind please saying that one more time? I just timed back in with my phone.
All right, we are running out of time for today. I'm going to give you each an opportunity for a closing statement. This is your opportunity.
In my closing statement, may I reference, I still had exhibit number 6 in the packet of paperwork to speak about in regards to drug use that was around with Jesse when he wanted Aria to attend this event.
Well, the evidence itself, those are questions. No, so we're not introducing new exhibits during closing statements. So this is your time for a closing statement. If you want to make one.
Am I going first, Your Honor?
You are, ma'am.
Okay. I guess in closing, I just want the courts and everybody to understand that I only ever did any of this because I noticed how heavily Aria was being affected by PTSD. And with the way that Jesse was speaking to me about the abuse and how he thinks it's funny that I ever thought I was abused, I definitely did not feel comfortable thinking that this is a man that can help my daughter through her PTSD episodes. Just really want to stress that, like, I don't mind sharing custody. I just so heavily was looking for him to take some sort of responsibility so that I can feel like Aria is going to be safe and she can get the help that she needs when she's not in my care. I'm just really hoping that the courts can consider asking him to attend regular therapy, anger management classes, to agree with the drug testing before picking Aria up. And I'm just really hoping that we can push for temporary supervised visits while we are still in the beginning stages of getting Aria the help that she needs from her therapist. And
Okay, Mr.
that
Morrison,
concludes everything from me, Your Honor.
And in my closing statement, I don't know.
Mr. Morrison, hold on one. Oh, never mind. She was gone for a second, but she is there. So, all right, go ahead, sir.
In closing, I would just like to I need to know that my daughter's being educated correctly. I need to know that she is in safe care, and from my experience, she isn't. I thought we were doing good, and apparently it all just went to crap out of nowhere. And so I strive so that we can co-parent together. I would like us both to have an equal part in her life, as she deserves to have both parents in her life. I really wish we could just drop all this. This is really, really silly. That's why I say I think it's funny, because there's always a victim, and that there doesn't need to be. We can be healed, move forward, and that's what needs to happen.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so the parties are before the court due to a divorce that was filed by the plaintiff. The parties have one minor child together. There is no prior court order in this matter. The court does have to consider whether or not there's an established custodial environment with either one parent, both parents, or neither parent. In this matter, the parties were together throughout the child's life until they separated in November of last year. Upon the initial separation, they continued to, they started to do week on, week off parenting time and share the child and share the custodial environment. In June, at some point of last year, mom discontinued dad's parenting time and no longer provided the child for parenting. There's been reference to this incident at a party where another individual made comments and acted in a way that seemed to spark a very negative reaction for the child. I don't see how that would then justify not returning the child to dad throughout this time. That whole situation didn't happen because of dad. It happened at a party that mom took the child to. So in looking at the established custodial environment, even though dad has not had time with the minor child the last couple of months, that was a decision that was unilaterally made by mom, and based on this record is not justified. So mom essentially prevented dad from continuing that environment that he had when the parties separated. So given that the parties lived together for quite some time and then again for several months after continued to share custody, it's the court's finding that there is an established custodial environment with both mom and dad. What that means is, in order to change the established custodial environment, a party would have to show that there's clear and convincing evidence that it is appropriate to change the child's custodial environment. That is a higher burden of proof than a preponderance of the evidence, which is what is required if there is not a change to an established custodial environment. So in this case, if mom or dad wanted to have the sole physical custody, they have to meet the burden of clear and convincing evidence that it's in the child's best interest based on the best interest factors. I will now go through the best interest factors one by one. The first factor is the love, affection, and emotional ties that exist between the parties involved and the child. Based on the testimony in this case, it does appear that both parents have love, affection, and emotional ties with the child, so that factor is equal. The next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the child love, affection, and guidance, and continue the education and raising of the child in his or her religion or creed. I would find that factor is equal. I think both parties have the capacity and the disposition to provide those needs for the child. Next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to provide the child with food, clothing, and medical care. Again, I believe both parties have the capacity and disposition to provide those needs. They both have, throughout the child's life, provided food, clothing, as well as medical care. Mom has been in charge of the medical care more than dad, but dad does have the ability to provide those needs. So this factor is equal. The next factor is the length of time the child has lived in a stable, satisfactory environment and the desirability of maintaining continuity. It sounds as if there's been a few moves throughout the child's life. There was some period of stability when the parties resided together where dad lives now. And then obviously the parties separated. So that stability had to be broken with one parent, and we were not that far removed from when that separation happened. But dad has remained in the same environment he was in when the parties were together and separated. Therefore, I find this factor slightly favors the dad. The next factor is the permanence as a family unit of the existing or proposed custodial home or homes. There really wasn't a whole lot of testimony regarding the parties' future plans. Mom is in a new relationship. Dad has remained at the residence that he was at. And it appears to be that is a permanent plan for Dad. Given all of the testimony, I would find this factor is equal. The next factor is the moral fitness of the parties involved. This looks at not just a person's moral fitness, but whether or not their moral fitness impacts their ability on the child in a negative manner. There's been testimony basically from both parties regarding some difficulties with the other party's behavior. But in the end, I don't find that there's enough to show that either party's moral fitness is impacting their ability to parent. So I find this factor is equal. The next factor is the mental and physical health of the parties involved. There has been certainly testimony regarding mom's struggles with PTSD. There's really been no testimony regarding any physical health issues. Mom is open about any struggles that she has. I don't find that her mental health impacts her ability to safely and appropriately care for the child. So I would find that this factor is equal. Next factor is the homeschool and community record of the child. This child is currently in first grade, apparently homeschooling for first grade, but did public school for kindergarten. Given the child's age, I don't believe this factor is applicable, so this factor would be even. The next factor is the reasonable preference of the child. This child is less than 7 years old, so the court does not consider the child to be of sufficient age to express a preference on this matter. So that factor is not applicable. The next factor is the willingness and ability of each of the parties to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship between the child and the other parent. There's no testimony of Dad trying to impair the relationship between the minor child and Mom. However, there is obviously testimony that Mom has withheld visitation now for several months. She has given some testimony as to why she thinks that is supported. However, given the circumstances in this matter, there was never really any showing that when the parties were doing week on, week off, that the child was being negatively impacted by her parenting time with Dad. So given Mom's withholding of the child from Dad, I would find this factor favors the Dad. The next factor is domestic violence, regardless of whether or not the violence was directed against or witnessed by the child. Mom has testified regarding a few incidents involving domestic violence, as well as provided some photographs of injuries. Dad's roommate testified regarding a time that he saw Dad appear with scratches. That incident was not really testified to in a significant manner, but given the testimony from both parties as well as witnesses before the court as to this factor, I do believe this factor favors the mother. When looking at the total sum of the best interest factors, I don't believe either party has shown by clear and convincing evidence that it is appropriate to sever the established custodial environment and provide one of them the primary physical custody. Therefore, it's the court's recommendation that the parties share joint legal custody and joint physical custody. It is the court's recommendation that the parties share custody on a week on, week off schedule, with exchanges taking place on Sundays at 6 p.m., with Dad's first week starting October 29th. I will give this recommendation immediate interim effect. However, the parties do have the right to object to this recommendation. You'll have 21 days to file an objection, and that information will be provided in the paperwork that is sent to you. So what that means on my order is that Dad's first week of parenting time begins October 29th at 6 p.m. and the parties would continue to alternate week on, week off, as well as the parties would follow the standard holiday schedule for the 46th Circuit Court unless they agree otherwise. The final issue, which I'll get some input, I'll also recommend the matter for a child support recommendation, but then I also want to get input from the parties as to how the transfer of the child would take place. I'm not sure if there's still that PPO that's going to prevent the parties from being in the same area or not. So we've got to decide on where the two of you will exchange the child. If one of you will, if you'll meet somewhere, or if one of you will go to the other's house for their start of their time, and vice versa. So, Mr. Morrison, what are your thoughts on exchanges for parenting time?
Sorry, excuse me. I don't mind where we meet. We can, that's anywhere. I don't care. I have a vehicle. I can drive. I can go meet and get my daughter anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Is there an active people still against you?
Yes, there is.
All right. So that prevents the two of you from having any contact, or just contact regarding the child?
No, contact me and Melissa, period.
Okay. So I don't know if it's better then for the parties to have a third party to do drop-offs, or a meeting at a police station can also be done also. You could meet in the parking lot of the state police post. The two of you would not have to interact. The child could simply get out of the car and go to the other car. Is that feasible, do you think, Mr. Morrison?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Ms. Morrison, what are your thoughts on the appropriate way to do child exchanges? And you are muted.
I would prefer doing so inside of a police station, not just like in the parking lot.
I don't think they accommodate that. From my history, it's always been parties meet in the parking lot. They do have cameras that face that parking lot. So if there are any issues, if you don't want to be the one that
Do
goes,
those
ma'am, you can
cameras pick
also.
up on audio?
I don't know about that. So, ma'am, if you don't want to be the one that goes, you can also send a family member to go. And you're also free to record exchanges. There's nothing that prevents that.
May I ask a question, Your Honor?
Yes.
Just in regards to going back and forth, Aria and myself and Patrick have had plans with a family friend of ours for the past about month and a half now for our Halloween plans. If Aria is going back to Jesse's on the 29th, does that mean I have absolutely no custody during Halloween with her?
I don't know if Halloween is a part of this county's. Halloween is a part of the standard schedule.
It is
so
one of
look into
Aria's favorite holidays.
I'm not trying to upset your guys' plans or anything. Like, if you guys already have like some Halloween plans or whatever, and you guys got it set out or whatever, and she's all excited, like, I'm not trying to upset. I'm not trying to move the wedge here. That's fine with me. That's okay. I'd like to be able to keep your.
Ms. Morrison, what is the Halloween plan, man? So you're saying Halloween night?
Did you say Mrs. Morrison? I'm sorry.
Yes. What is your plan for Halloween?
We were meeting up with Patrick Dunlap's friends, Jack and Jamie, and their 4 kids, and we were supposed to go Halloween trick-or-treating. They have this neighborhood that they've been going to for several years now, and it's supposed to be having all these big attractions and whatnot.
Man. When I ask a question, please just answer the question straight. So that is the night of Halloween?
I thought it was. I apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
So you're talking about trick-or-treating on the actual night of Halloween?
Yes, sir. All of this was pertaining to trick-or-treating Halloween night.
All right. So, Mr. Morrison, do you have any issue if, while that would be your week, if Miss Morrison be allowed to take the child out for trick-or-treating that night?
Fine. That's perfectly fine.
All right. Thank you. All right. So I will indicate that for Halloween this year, mom shall have the minor child for the trick-or-treating. Any other questions, Miss Morrison?
So it'd be the day after Halloween that we're meeting up, right? And so, like, how would I? Because I can't talk to her according to the PPO. I'm not allowed to talk to her. So, like, if like plans change or we need to meet, like, do we schedule that here right now? Like, we got Halloween on what, 30th, 31st, and then what is that? To the 29th.
So your pairing time starts the 29th. Halloween is the 31st, so that's on Tuesday.
Okay. So then we just do like how do this PPO thing makes it stupid. Like, how do we, like, communication is difficult.
Sometimes, so your PPO does not include the ability to speak to each other regarding the child?
So we can, okay. So I don't have any.
Does your PPO? Some PPOs will include that when parents have a child together, they'll still be allowed to speak regarding the child only. I don't have a copy of the PPO, so I'm not sure.
Can we make a schedule now?
We can figure out Halloween now. So I would assume at some point that day, she would pick the child up from you.
On a Tuesday, yeah.
So ma'am, do you know when you plan to kind of start getting her ready and to head out for the night that night?
We had plans to go downstate like early that morning, as it's I think 2.5, maybe 3 hours downstate.
Okay, so the trick or treat
And
is
we were
elsewhere.
planning on staying the night and then coming back the next day.
All right.
Like 9 or 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever time's easier for you.
So Mr. Morrison has offered to have you pick up the child early on Tuesday morning. What time are you requesting, ma'am?
8 a.m. would be perfect. Please and thank you, Your Honor.
All right. And then do the same then the next day, so then return her back Wednesday at 8 a.m. on November 1st. Is that okay?
If we could do it possibly closer to midday, since it's downstate, not.
All right, so if you're spending the night.
Coming up next morning.
So Mr. Morrison, as far as your work schedule, would you be available around noon to pick her up on Wednesday the 1st?
Certainly.
Okay. All right, so what we'll indicate then is the parties have agreed that the parties will exchange for Halloween, the minor child at 8 a.m. on the 31st, and then return back to dad on November 1st at noon.
Then, as well as, I guess we didn't establish a time on the 29th either. So
6 p.m. is the standard time for exchanges.
6 p.m. standard. Okay. Thank you.
But you are giving up a night for Halloween, so we should add a night to your first week. So your first week will start actually on the 28th at 6 p.m. then, since you lose that Halloween night. But in the future, your exchanges will be on Sundays at 6 p.m. Okay, all right. It sounds like the two of you at one point were getting along okay and things were going well. Hopefully you can get back to that point and just put any past differences aside and focus on the best interest of your child. Schooling is going to probably be an issue, it sounds like. If the two of you can't agree on where she should be in school, then the parties will have to file a motion if they don't have an agreement. And if that motion comes before the court, then we'll address that then if the two cannot come to an agreement on schooling. But it was not before the court today. We did not have time to get into all the particulars of a school motion. So if you can't agree, that will have to be dealt with then another day. All right. Thank you both for appearing. That does conclude the matter and you may sign off.
Your Honor.